Mike Johnston has become a household name in the drumming community for being an amazing online educator, clinician, and all-round fantastic player. But what I want to find out today is his Brooklyn Standard Gretsch snare drum any good? What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Gear4music drums channel. My name is Theo, and like I said before, today we are going to be checking out the Gretsch Brooklyn Standard snare drum made in conjunction with Mike Johnston. Before we get into the video, please don't forget to give us a like and subscribe so you can see more content coming out in the future. We have some really cool stuff coming for you very soon. Now, the snare drum we're looking at today, as I've said before, is the Gretsch Brooklyn Standard snare drum. Now, this snare drum is the signature snare drum of Mike Johnston, but if you know anything about Mike Johnston, you'll know that he doesn't like to put his name to his signature products. He just doesn't like it, and that sort of humility is something that makes us love him even more. Now, we're going to have a look at this snare drum. We're going to look at three different things today. First of all, we're going to have a look at looks, we're going to have a look at sound, and finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about how the snare drum feels. Now, today is the first time that I've ever played this snare drum. I've seen it online. I've always wanted to play it. It's been out for a little while, but it's the first time I've actually been able to get my hands on it. So when Mike Johnston was coming up with the snare drum, his thinking was that he wanted to create a snare drum that was your workhorse, a snare drum that could do everything. And specifically, he designed it in mind with his change of styles from being a rock drummer to going to more fusion styles. So this drum is incredibly sensitive at the quieter volumes and really articulate, but also gives a really great crack at the same time as well. Now, going on looks first, this snare drum looks absolutely beautiful. I just love the way it looks. It's got a really classy and refined look. It's just synonymous with Gretsch. All their drums are really classy and beautiful looking. First of all, it's a 14 by 5.5 inch snare drum, a really common size and a size that will get you through pretty much any gig. The finish is a satin black metallic, which looks absolutely beautiful. We have the Gretsch 302 double flanged hoops on here, and we have the classic tube lugs as well, which is just a great look. It's a look that Gretsch have had for a long time, and Mike's brought this back onto this snare drum. And we also have this classic Gretsch lightning throw-off. So we have the throw-off on the left-hand side, and we have the tightener here on the right-hand side. Just so classy looking. Also, this snare drum is harboring a little secret on the inside of the Gretsch Brooklyn Standard. It is personally hand-signed by Mike Johnston. So there is a limited number of these snare drums out in the wild, and every single one of them has been signed by the man himself. So I talked about the 302 hoops and the tube lugs looking fantastic, but they also do contribute to the sound. Everything on this snare drum has been meticulously thought about. The double flange hoops allow the snare to breathe, and those 302 Gretsch hoops with the super deep give you a really clear, defined stick click. And with the tube lugs, we have less contact with metal on the shell, allowing the shell to do its thing. Now, the snare drum does also have a few tricks up its sleeve. We have the internal dampening system here. So unlike other dampeners that you'll see, the internal dampening system on this snare drum is kind of long and flat, which means it takes up the whole surface area of the drum and gives you a completely playable surface. Sometimes you'll see the single ring ones, which give you this sort of dead area on the drum. This one deadens the drum completely. I mean, you don't have to put moon gels on there or anything like that. You have the option with this snare drum, which again takes us back to the fact that this is a workhorse. This snare drum is in the Brooklyn range, so it's a standard Brooklyn shell. It's a 6-ply maple poplar shell, which sounds fantastic. All of the Brooklyn series sounds absolutely amazing. What this snare drum features as well is a double 45-degree bearing edge, which once again brings us back to the fact that there's less of the head touching the bearing edge, meaning the drum is super sensitive when you're playing at those lower volumes. The last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the sound of the Gretsch Brooklyn Standard is under the hood. So I'm just going to pick the snare drum up quickly. So as you can see here, this snare drum actually features a 42-strand snare wire. Now this basically means it's extra sensitive. Like normally with like a 20-strand, when you're playing a little bit quieter, you might have to adjust the snares quite a lot to get like a really powdery snare sound. With this snare, you can achieve that sound so easily because we do have the hypersensitive 42-strand, and you can hear it as I'm talking buzzing away because that's how sensitive this snare drum really is. So finally with this drum, I just want to talk a little bit about how it feels to play. And I've spoken about this all the way through the video. This drum, in a nutshell, is super sensitive. You get like a really nice feedback from the drum when you're playing quietly, and also when you dig into the drums from all the things we talk about that play to this drum sensitivity, from the hoops to the lugs to the snare wires. We have a super sensitive all-rounder, and also playing about with the dampening system was really fun to try and find different tones by how much you have the dampening system against the drum. It's just an all-round, you know, fantastic and interesting drum to play, and it's super unimposing. Like you just bring the snare drum to a gig, and you're like, oh, there's just like a normal Gretsch snare drum, but it's going to sound fantastic every time, and it's going to suit a plethora of players. And I think Mike's definitely hit the nail on the head with what he wanted to achieve. Talking about heads, we have actually replaced the original snare drum head that comes with the Brooklyn Standard. The Brooklyn Standard actually comes with a Remo snare drum head, and we've replaced it with the Aquarian texture coated head, which is the head that Mike uses on most of his snare drums, just because we wanted to get that real Mike Johnston experience when playing this drum. Now guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please leave us a little comment below telling us what you thought of the Brooklyn Standard snare, and let us know what snare drums, whatever you want to see on the channel next time. As always, please don't forget to give us a like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.